Hyperloom.
In the serene landscapes of Switzerland behind the glamour of the catwalk, a shocking and unimaginable horror was uncovered. A former Miss Switzerland finalist, Kristina Joksimovic, known for her radiant beauty and charm, was brutally strangled and dismembered in her own home by the person closest to her. Her husband, known only as Mark Reben, confessed to the unspeakable crime, strangulation, dismemberment with a jigsaw and garden shears, and then cured in a blender. As investigators peeled back the layers of the case, they found concrete indications of mental illness, driving Mark Reben to a deadly breaking point. But his chilling explanation? He claimed it was all in self-defense. In a gripping battle between justice and madness, the investigation delves into Mark Reben's psyche, uncovering disturbing details of a life unraveling. With 2 children left behind and a community in shock, the question remains, was it self-defense or something far darker?
From the outside, he seemed like the perfect father, the perfect husband. Mark Reben, a man with every advantage, a wealthy family, a respectable job, a beautiful home. He even volunteered with the local scout group, a man who, by all appearances, had it all together. But behind those closed doors, behind the facade, was something far more sinister. A cold-hearted psychopath hidden in plain sight. And when his mask finally slipped, it revealed horrors beyond imagination. Strangling his wife, Kristina, a former model he once claimed to love, was only the beginning. What followed was a nightmare no one could have predicted. He didn't just kill her, he dismembered her, decapitated her, and, perhaps most chilling of all, pureed her remains in a blender. This wasn't just murder, it was something darker, something deeply disturbing. And it makes you wonder, how does a fairy tale romance end like this? Mark met Kristina in 2017. It started like a dream, a whirlwind romance leading to marriage, followed by the birth of their 2 daughters. On the surface, it was a picture-perfect life. But what causes a man to turn so violently on the woman he once called his wife? That's the question everyone is asking, and it's the story you won't be able to turn away from.
Kristina was married to a killer and had no idea. She left that psychopath home alone with the children. He was really derogatory with her, with gestures, words, and even his tone. He wanted Kristina to disappear. If he can do something like this to Kristina, who he loved and is the mother of his own 2 children out of a hatred for her and an inferiority complex, then what will he do to those of us who told the police about their relationship? What he did to her? He wanted to eliminate her and for her to have never existed. He wanted her to disappear in thin air with those chemicals and pretend that she just left because it got too much for her.
The autopsy report shows Kristina was decapitated when her husband dismembered her body with a jigsaw, a knife, and garden shears. He also carefully removed Kristina's womb, which was the only organ cut out of her torso, and this deliberate mutilation or ritualized degradation of the body is believed to indicate that Mark has a mental disorder. The autopsy found that Kristina's cause of death was strangulation, with her neck showing a reddish throttle mark. Her body showed signs of blunt force trauma suffered prior to her death, with Kristina having cuts on her cheek, under her eyebrow and nose, as well as several bruises on her right lower leg, foot, shoulder blades, and on the back of her head. Mark used a jigsaw, a knife, and a pair of garden shears to dismember Kristina, before either throwing various body parts into an industrial blender or dissolving them in a chemical solution. Before Mark dismembered her, he broke Kristina's hip joints out of their sockets and went on to disarticulation, which is the removal of a bone from its joint, like an amputation, with her left upper arm, forearms, and right lower leg. While dismembering the body, he was playing YouTube videos on his phone.
It was supposed to be a normal evening, a family dinner, 2 little girls playing, and a father spending time with his granddaughters. But in the basement of that grand house on Gold Hill in Binningen, something unthinkable was waiting. Kristina's father had no idea that as he sat at the table talking to Mark, his son-in-law, he was just feet away from a horrifying discovery. Mark played innocent, pretending he had no idea where his wife was. But after hours of uneasy silence, something drove her father downstairs to the laundry room. There, in an isolated bunker with thick concrete walls, he saw a black bin bag. Something about it was wrong. Blonde hair, strands sticking out from the bag. He opened it, and there inside was his daughter's severed head, still with her hair attached. The woman he once knew as a beautiful, vibrant mother had been reduced to a gruesome secret, hidden in plain sight. And the man who shared dinner with him, the father of his grandchildren, had been hiding a far darker truth.
He used massive violence against me on several occasions until April 2016. Mark drove over my foot with his car during his frequent fits of rage after we visited my parents, and also threatened to throw me out of the vehicle on the drive home. He slammed on the brakes, causing me to smash my head on the dashboard. One time when we was home, he grabbed me by the neck and pushed me against the wall. He sometimes lost control during arguments, which caused him to hit or strangle me.
8 months after the gruesome killing, Kristina's memory lives on in the most tragic of ways. Outside her house and on her grave, flower tributes continue to pile up. But it's the art made by her young daughters, 2 little girls who will grow up without their mother, that breaks your heart the most. Written in Serbian, it simply says, "We love you." It's hard to imagine the horrors that unfolded just weeks after what seemed like an idyllic moment in her life. Kristina had posted pictures of a couple's getaway to Lake Lucerne, beautiful images that told the world everything was fine. A couple in love, taking time for themselves. But behind those photos, something much darker was brewing. Her friends knew the truth. This wasn't the picture-perfect love story that the internet saw. The cracks were there, hidden behind the filters and captions. No one could have predicted the horror that would follow. How does a couple go from a lakeside retreat to an act of unimaginable violence? How do you reconcile the image of a happy family with the brutal reality of what happened next?
I want people to know what he did to her, and that it can happen out of a perfect relationship, with a lot of money and no worries. Even if it just starts with insults in the marriage or relationship, you have to be vigilant. If you realize that the other is starting to hate you, no matter if woman or man, then it is better to go than try and make it work. She always wanted to empower women, and I want to make sure she can still do this in a way after her death. I want to convey the message that even if a relationship looks perfect on the outside, it isn't always like that on the inside.
What began as a whirlwind romance, meeting at work, a quick marriage, and the birth of 2 daughters, ended in unimaginable tragedy. The woman who once graced beauty pageant stages had her life brutally stolen by the man she trusted most. How does love turn to violence? And how can someone hide their darkest instincts behind a mask of normalcy? The story of Kristina Joksimovic and Mark Reben is a haunting reminder that appearances can deceive, and even the most beautiful lives can be hiding deadly secrets. This is the story of a dream that turned into a nightmare.
If you are worried that a friend, neighbor, or loved one is a victim of domestic abuse, you can call the National Domestic Abuse Helpline in your area.
Thank you for watching. This was Hyper Dream. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Thank you again. See you soon.